everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the Cary Audio SLP-05. Now this is an all-tube preamp. It runs 8 6SN7 tubes. In the main unit it has a separate power supply that runs a tube rectifier, a 5AR4 tube, and this is an all-tube unit. It's been out for well over a decade. It's still new. It's still the current flagship in the Cary Audio Preamp lineup. This was the Cary Audio follow-up to the ever so popular, legendary, and still in the lineup, the SLP-98P. Now, I owned an SLP-98 before. I love the small size, the tube complement, the fact that it had a separate power supply to keep noise away. I remember listening to records using that SLP-98 and just being in heaven. It had such a full, big, mid-range centric sound. It sounded like tubes, which is what I wanted at the time, because when you buy a tube piece, you want it to sound like tubes. So when the SLP-05 came out, the follow-up to the 98, or the improved, the flagship in the lineup, I lusted after that thing since it's released, and I've just been able to get one in my life. To hear it, Cary sent me a review unit about 4 or 5 weeks ago. The way time flies, I don't even know how long it's been, but I've been enjoying it in the system. And I have to tell you, it's one of those pieces that today in 2022 you can buy that still sounds like tubes. I'll talk about the SLP-05 and what it did for the reference system and what I think of it. I have the Pass Labs XA60.8 attached to it. And of course, I'm running my Fleetwood DeVille SQs with the system. But today, when you buy a tube piece, there's a lot of people who are in the tube camp, and then there's a lot of people who are in the solid state camp. Many years ago, I used to be in the tube camp without question. Cary Audio was my go-to brand. I've owned the V12R amplifiers, the Rocket 88R amplifier, the SLP-98 preamp. I've owned a Cary older set of 300B monoblocks. I'm trying to remember all the Cary gear. I own a couple of their CD players. I loved Cary Audio back in the day because their sound was organic, it was human, it was tubey, right? And if you wanted tubes, Cary Audio was one of those brands that delivered the tube sound. Now here we are in 2022. There's a lot of brands out there making amplifiers, making preamplifiers, making integrated amplifiers that are tube, right? But just because there's tubes doesn't mean you're going to get that tube sound that you might be craving. For example, Octave Audio makes a series of tube integrated amps, but they sound fast and leaner and quicker than the tube designs of the golden age, say even the 70s, right? When tubes sounded tubey, bloomy, almost tubby, some of them. There were negative things about tubes back then. But today's tube brands, Audio Research, another one, they're going to sound more modern, more clean, more quicker and faster, like solid state. Now, Cary Audio, on the other hand, still has products in the lineup that sound like tubes, that give you that rich harmonic texture, that beauty from within, almost like it's lit from within, right? And I feel that sound is kind of went out a little bit as people try to seek that uber detail and that information overload coming at you from the speakers. So Cary Audio, I'm here to say, still makes amazing gear. The SLP-05 is still their flagship preamp, well over a decade of it being introduced. They've also introduced an upgrade to the SLP-05 called the Ultimate Upgrade. And this upgrades the capacitors, the power supply, all these things inside the units to deliver a little bit more of the modern day flavor, but at the same time, it keeps that classic tube sound as well. It's the first piece I introduced within my system in this room that adds that ever so important body and organic nature, that mid-range realism. I've had products that gave me that eerie mid-range before, but the Cary SLP-05 preamp just interjected within my system with the Pass Labs amps and the DeVille speakers. I'm running the Weiss 501 DAC, which I love. It is just delivering an absolute breathtaking performance in this room. So here is the SLP-05 Preamp. This is the main unit that houses the tubes. You have your silk screening on the top here. You have 8, 6S, and 7 tubes. Right now I have the stock Electro Harmonics tubes in because I've been burning them in. The power supply is right here, and this basically shows you your plate voltage coming in and your plate current. This houses a 5AR4 rectifier tube. You have to unscrew the bottom to get the tube in, but it's a beautiful unit. The paint is a automobile finish Jaguar anthracite black. You don't see that too much. Now it's funny, I just installed this Power Plant 20. It also has a shiny black top, though this isn't anthracite black automotive paint. It kind of matches the Cary, though it's huge. But the Cary audio is just beautiful. You have these switches here that are physical, right? Tape monitor, headphone on, preamp or cinema bypass, your big volume knob. You have input levels that you can lower. Though here I wish there were notches or clicks, right? Because if you're trying to, for example, this is a high gain device, and some people say, well, you can use the input levels and lower them to lower the gain, but you're never going to get them exactly in the right position, meaning you'll have a little bit of a balance issue. I'd like to see Cary put little click stops here so you're in the same spot, right? That would be really cool, and that would be even better probably than a high-low gain switch. They just added click stops to these so both of them are always in the right place. Now, the tubes, you still can get tubes. I found the Electro Harmonics online. I found other brands online. Plenty of new old stock options if you want to spend. As a matter of fact, here's the box for the new old stock rectifier. This is actually a Mullard, but branded as GE. So on the back here, I have balanced connections, but you can see that you have balanced as well as RCA. This is a fully balanced unit, so it is recommended by Cary to use it with balanced interconnects. I've used them with both, and I much prefer the balanced XLR cables with the SLP-05. This is an absolute beautiful unit. It actually even matches, check this out, you have this line here. Then on the Pass amps, you have the same line, blue and silver and black, blue and silver and black. Perfect match. Now, do these match well to the Pass Labs amps? Absolutely. It's an actual magical pairing here. It's pretty sizable too. Now, I own the SLP-98 back in the day. It was probably half, or maybe, 60, 70% of the width of this, but it was also thinner, and the power supply is also smaller. The SLP-98P sounds to me even more tubey than the SLP-05, so if you want full classic tube preamp, the SLP-98 is beautiful. If you want that tube magic with some modern day enhancements, the SLP-05 with the ultimate upgrade this is the best preamp I've ever heard in my system. This is the best looking preamp I've ever had in my system. Now, before the Cary SLP-05, I was running an $18,000 Nagra Classic preamp, which also had tubes, and I loved the sound of that. But it was pretty fast. It was a little leaner. It was a little more energetic than the SLP-05. What I'm getting with the SLP-05 in this system is actually a sound I prefer versus the Nagra preamp. Now, with the Nagra Classic line, when I had all three, the preamp, the amp, the DAC, that was probably the best overall sound for my ears, the most impressive sound, the most wow factor that I've had in this room with these speakers. But switching out to the SLP-05, back to the Pass Labs all Class A amps, which deliver their own dose of magic and humanity, the sound went to a whole different kind of presentation. And for my ears and my taste, something I much preferred. And it wasn't until I heard it that I really realized it. But what the SLP-05 is bringing to my system is a good dose of that tube magic sound that I've missed and craved, and I didn't even realize how much I've missed it. But it's also bringing me that wide soundstage, the holographic imaging, but with an emotional touch, right? It's music that speaks to the heart, and you guys know I love when gear pours emotion from them, right? It brings emotion out of the speakers. If you're listening to some pieces of gear that do not do this, it might sound cold, sterile, flat, gritty at the top end or harsh at the top end. Maybe you're lacking some bass. Maybe it's just sounding off, right? Those are systems that I find emotionally void. When there's a system that produces music with emotion, you're going to hear body, you're going to hear kick, you're going to feel the music within your blood and bones, right? It's going to speak to your heart. There's going to be nothing offensive about it. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to have a life of its own, almost as if the music is a living, breathing entity. And that's what the SLP-05 has brought to the system. Now, this does have the ultimate upgrade, so it's bringing that bit of tube magic along with those things we crave and we want from solid state pieces, right? This has air, but it also has body. It has scary good texture with vocals where you can hear every little, sound in someone's voice, but yet it's not doing that in a way where it's presenting the music as thin. The SLP-05 has a slightly rounded top end, so it's not going to be offensive. It has the biggest bass performance, tight bass, big bass in the lower registers as well as the mid bass, and that really brings life to the music. It's delivering for my ears the preferred bass performance of any piece, amplification or integrated, I should say, or preamp has brought. Now, it does come with a remote. I think the remote is a little overkill, but it's a very nice programmable remote. Now, you can only use the volume up or down and the mute button. You cannot change inputs with the remote. That's fine with me since I'm only using 1 or 2 inputs at the most, and I don't mind walking up and changing an input if I'm going to switch, for example, from digital to, say, my turntable. The Cary Audio SLP-05, in my opinion, is probably the most beautiful preamp I've ever laid eyes on. I prefer the design and look to the Nagra Classic. I feel the build is beautiful. Now, the Cary makes these pieces right here in the United States. If you have an older SLP-05, what's cool is you can upgrade to the Ultimate package. I think they just raised the price of the Ultimate upgrade to $1,795. Well worth it if you want to update your SLP-05. This is again a 2-box preamp. This eliminates, or it separates, the power supply from the main unit, thus getting rid of any irritating noise that could come from that or heat from the power supply harming your main unit. I keep them separated today. Cary no longer recommends stacking them, so I keep the power supply on one side, the main unit on the other side, and it works out really great. The SLP-05 is one of those pieces that is beautiful. It touches your heart and soul. It's a joy to look at each and every day when you walk in your listening room. It's a joy to click that power on, and it's just heavenly sitting and listening to the music pour from my speakers when the SLP-05 is in place. In 2022, tubes have a place in hi-fi and high-end audio, but you have to make sure you know what kind of tube sounds you want. If you want a little bit of that classic tube flavor, but with modern day enhancements, the Cary SLP-05 is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've been able to listen to some amazing gear over the last year or two. The SLP-05 is among the top 2 or 3 things that I've reviewed over the last year. And what I mean by that is in the top 2 of things that really, really spoke to me. It's something that if I take out of the system right now and put something else in, that I'm going to miss the Cary. I prefer this Cary to the Pass Labs XP12, but it's more expensive than the XP12. I prefer it to the Nagra Classic, and this is probably, what, 8,000 less than the Nagra Classic. This is an absolute beautiful music maker, and I am just thrilled to have it here in my system. That's the Cary Audio SLP-05, and I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on this piece. I'm going to get back to listening to some music, and I'm going to write a little bit, and I'll have a new video soon. Actually, I'm going to talk about these power plants. This is a power regenerator versus a power conditioner. So 2 different things. I've been running an AudioQuest 1200, then I put in a Power Plant 12, then a Power Plant 20. I'm going to talk about those soon. I'm also going to talk about these Fleetwood DeVille SQs and what I think of them compared to the standard versions. So if you like this, thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing day, and I'll see you next time. I love you all.